Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to call this meeting of the Oakville Public Library Board to order for Thursday, November 20th, 2025. Before we get into the meeting, I'd like to review and read our territorial acknowledgement. The Oakville Public Library is situated on the Treaty Number 14 and Treaty Number 22 treaty lands and territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of the Huron-Wendat and the Haudenosaunee. Oakville is currently home to many different First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Regardless of where we come from, we are all interconnected to the land that we live on, the water that we use, and the air that we breathe. We are committed to a continuous learning journey and allyship. We seek to elevate Indigenous voices and lived experience to cultivate reconciliation in the town of Oakville. Madam Committee Clerk, do we have any regrets this evening?
Yes, Meredith, Rebecca, and Celso are regrets.
Okay, and we do have a quorum, so we'll proceed with our business this evening. Members of the board, do you have any declarations of pecuniary interest to declare today? I'm not seeing any. And how am I going to know if I don't have Zoom up, how am I going to know when Andrew, who is online, I understand, is wanting to delegate or speak? You can see him, so you'll let me know? Okay, thank you. Okay, members of the board, I want to draw your attention to our first matter of business, which is the item 4.1, which is the minutes of our last meeting on October 16, 2025. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes as circulated, please? Rod and Avis. Any questions, comments, errors, or omissions? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, moving on to our consent items. We do have 5 items on our consent agenda. Anybody want to separate any of those, or are you satisfied with the information that's been circulated? Ray? They've all been moved. Is there a seconder for that motion? Bill? Last call for separations? See none, I'll call the vote. All in favor of the approval of the recommendations in 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 4, and 5. All in favor? Yep. That's carried. Okay, for those who are watching, I just want to let you know that we've approved 5 consent items, which are only received for information items. 5.1 is the 2025 Oakville Public Library keyboard agenda items. 5.2 is the health and safety report. 5.3 is customer code of conduct policy. 5.4 is occupational health, safety, and workplace violence policy. And 5.5 is the employee retention and turnover metrics. Just FYI, on the policies, they've all been circulated to the board previously and vetted through discussion items. These are simply the final versions that we're receiving for the record. Moving on to our discussion items, we have no confidential consent items, but moving on to discussion items, we start with 7.1, which is our 2025 audit planning report. And I'm assuming that's why you're here tonight, Jade.
Good evening, Chair and members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the KPMG audit planning report for the 2025 year end. As a quick introduction for myself, for anyone online, my name is Jade Surgener and I'm the accounting manager at the town of Oakville, and I'll also be the main point of contact with KPMG throughout the duration of the audit. As in previous years, I'll provide a brief overview of the key items from the planning report tonight, and then later in the spring, KPMG will return to the board and present the final report on their audit findings. Tonight, I won't go through every item in the package, but I did want to draw your attention to a couple key items. The first is the recommendation. So this evening, the recommendation before you is to receive the 2025 audit planning report. And it's presented for receipt because KPMG is independent from management and from the board. They follow strict professional standards when conducting their audit. However, sharing their audit plan promotes transparency as well as gives the board an idea of what their proposed plan is for conducting the audit. The second item I wanted to highlight is materiality. So this year's materiality has been set at $375,000. This is up $7,000 from last year, but the benchmark of 3% of revenues remains the same. And while this figure represents the threshold that KPMG would declare the statements materially incorrect, KPMG still reviews items well below this number. A more relevant figure that I always highlight for the board is the audit misstatement posting threshold, which they set in their report at $18,750. So what this number means is that any adjustment over this amount, whether it's corrected or not, whether it's identified by us as management or by KPMG, will be brought to the board's attention. In addition to that, KPMG does sample amounts below 18,500, and if they feel there's a pervasive issue, they can extrapolate those results, and if that calculated figure is greater than 18,750, they would also bring that to your attention. And so hopefully this process of providing all adjustments over 18,750, but well below that materiality threshold, does give the board and the public comfort that everything will be reported to you. In 2025, there are no new accounting standards that the library needs to implement. Appendix B of KPMG's report highlights the upcoming standards for periods ending with a date of April 1st, 2026. And so that for the library means the 2027 year-end financial statements. And so management is currently evaluating the implications of these changes and will provide updates closer to the implementation date. Another key thing from the report is the audit focus areas. So the audit focus areas for 2025 have remained relatively consistent from the past because there's been really no significant or unusual transactions this year. The key areas include proper recognition of revenue and expenses, so mainly looking at cutoff to ensure that 2025 activity is recorded in the right year in 2026 and vice versa. They'll be looking at the accuracy of the post-employment retirement benefits, and we'll continue to use a third-party valuation consultant to help with that calculation. And they'll also be testing significant items such as payroll and the additions and disposals of the library's collection. And KPMG outlines this and all the procedures in detail in the report, so I won't go into the specifics. However, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have on the audit process. And if you do have any questions for KPMG directly, I'm happy to help facilitate those communications, or as board members, you're certainly welcome to reach out to them directly at any point throughout the entire year, not just the audit, to have a communication with them without the presence of management. Are there any questions or clarifications that I can help answer for the 2025 audit plan?
Let's see, we've been through this before.
Fair enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, members of the board, I'm looking for a motion to receive the audit planning report for information, please. Ray and Avis, last chance for comments or questions. All in favor? That's carried. Thanks, Jade. Made her job easy tonight. Up next, 7.2 is our comprehensive financial report for as of September 30th, 2025.
Yeah, so what you have before you is where we're sitting as a year-end surplus as of the end of September. So we are targeting a surplus of over $500,000. As we previously discussed with the board, a significant portion of that, $350,000, is simply a result of the delayed opening of 16 Mile and the staffing that was budgeted in order to accommodate that. That is included in the 350. I will also flag that there are 16 Mile impacts included in the remainder of that 524, simply related to gapping. Because as we've hired people into those positions, there is also gapping. And so we're still working through some of that process. And we're also continuing to have conversations about some of those surpluses, in particular collections, and how we're funneling some of that into collections in order to try and bridge that gap that we tend to see with collections near the end of the year. So the report goes through exactly where those surpluses are coming from. A number of it is gapping. We do have some vacancies that we're reviewing and adjusting and adapting as needed, but happy to take any comments, and Belinda's online as well.
Questions from the board? Avis?
This is very much an accounting question, so
okay.
I'd have to go to Belinda. But it relates to the library cards. So do you know approximately, like in the materials it said that the reason for one area being over budget was due to a large purchase of library cards? And I imagine library cards, if you get a bulk purchase, they are used over quite a long period of time. So I'm just curious, like, normally for something where you're using it over a period of time, you would expense it over that period, and it just seems like we've expensed it all at once.
So Belinda can correct me if I'm wrong, but we buy them, which means we have them, and once we receive them, we pay for them in their totality at that time. So it isn't necessarily something that if we buy enough to manage over multiple years, that we then finance over multiple years. It's the year in which we purchase and receive.
So we would use them all this year.
No,
So,
but we paid for them this year,
Yeah,
and we
that's
received them
where
this
the
year.
accounting
And then
part
we
comes in.
might distribute them over the next 2 years, but that's not how, and Belinda, I'm correct, right? Is Belinda on? Okay.
Hey, Terry, you are correct. The only thing about it is that we could set it up as a prepaid, which is
Right.
what you're getting at, and Jade
Yes.
could even clarify further. However, we don't know how long it's going to take for us to use them up. That's the difficult part. And then it also falls into the materiality that it's not enough to warrant us setting it up as a prepaid as well.
Right, that's why I was trying to get a sense of the size of it, so,
How much? Do you remember approximately? No, but how much was it in total? 19,000.
okay, all right, that's all, thank you.
Thanks, Avis. Further questions? Okay, I have a question with respect to HIP. I'm concerned that the balance at the projected balance at the end of 2025 is $867.
Yes.
What is the sustainability of this program based on that?
So that is the current challenge, and we are aware of it, and that's something that Monica and Marcus are currently working on. They were working with a consultant. The board will remember the previous HIP report that came forward, that we're working with the consultant that has identified that and potential plans. We are working with an updated strategic plan, which will come to the board in the new year, and part of that strategic plan will be to address the budget shortfall in order to address exactly how we can continue to do that. As I mentioned, you know, the regional funding will continue to come in. It's the revenue and how we kind of balance that out. And these are conversations that we need to have with our partners and how we kind of sort out us as the lead partner where our financial requirements are versus theirs. So that will be coming forward to the board in the new year, that we'll have to kind of make plans moving into 2027.
And what is the what are the specifics around the $112,000 transferred to OPL? The $112,000 is transferred to OPL operations. Is that shared expenses that OPL pays on their behalf? Like what is that for?
Sorry, let me look.
On
pull that
page
one.
65.
65.
The commentary says it's for a
Service
transfer of
fees?
$112,000 to OPL for management of HIP.
Oh, the 112.
Yeah.
Okay.
What did I say something different?
I was just heard the 12, and so I was thinking it was the service fees up,
Oh,
but
okay.
it was the 112. So some of that is so we get the money from the region, and that goes to help fund the full-time staff member that we have that helps manage HIP. So those basically are transfers into us to help us offset the staffing requirements that we have as lead partner.
Okay. How are we going to pay that next year?
Well, we feel relatively confident that we have the regional funding that will
Okay.
come in, because that is a portion of that.
Right.
And then that is something that we're going to have to look at.
Yeah, okay. And where is the revenue from the partners in the program detailed here? Because the other three library systems contribute, do they not?
They do not.
Oh, they don't?
No, they do in kind, and this has been an ongoing thing. So they also all have staff. OPL is the only one that gets reimbursed for our staff.
Okay.
The other four partners have staff that do the work on it, but they absorb that directly into their budget. So they don't give us money, but they give us in kind and staff time in order to manage their records. We're the only one with dedicated staff that oversee. So we get the funding that comes in from the region supports our staff, but we don't get funding from our partners because they have staff that do the work on their side.
So the region's giving us $52,500.
Yes.
And we have a full-time staff member on this project who invariably makes more than $52,500 between
Correct.
Salary and pension. So
Yep.
it seems like it's not really an apples-to-apples comparison to what our investment is versus our partners.
No. And that is also something that we're working to understand, is exactly what is They're in kind. What is that dollar amount in order to better understand the whole piece?
So the in-kind from the other libraries would largely be staffing. Is there
Staff time.
anything else that would be, that they would offer in kind?
It would just be staff time.
Okay, and they don't have dedicated full-time staff, do they?
No, we're the only one.
Do you know how many hours that, have they reported the number of hours that they're contributing?
It differs. I do know that at Burlington, I think it's half of a full-time staff. Halton Hills is a little bit less. So this is one of the things that we're trying to, and it will come to the report that'll come in Q1 of 2026 to the board, is we're really looking to quantify, to really understand what is the full cost of HIP. We're also asking some pretty tough questions about what is the future of HIP. I think we all hopefully recognize the value of it, but the way people access information online is shifting. People going onto a database and searching, AI is taking on it. So it is a really, and forgive me for those who've been on the board a really long time, a fulsome look at HIP and its future related to not only us as lead partner, but our 4 partner agencies.
Okay, so there's a report, there's a fulsome
Yes.
report being put together and that will analyze the contributions from the other libraries and other partners as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's not obviously sustainable at $867 closing balance.
No, and they are working on the executive committee of HIP, which is representatives from all 5, are working on a strategic plan. They've created the bulk of that, and then the CEOs for all the 4 CEOs and 1 executive director meet next Friday to go over it, and that's part of the conversation that will be built into the report that's coming.
Is the full-time person Marcus, or is it somebody else?
No, it's not Marcus.
But Marcus contributes a fair amount to this project as well.
Yes, but he's fully funded by OPL.
Right, so that's another contribution we're making that's not shared by
There's 3 positions.
Yeah.
There's 2 full-time and a part-time as part of our community development and engagement department.
Right.
And so a portion of Marcus's time and a portion of Andrew's time, as well as all of Mark's time, is quantified into HIP.
So we're really contributing the lion's share of the operational
lead partner,
costs.
yes.
Yeah, okay. Has that always been the case?
Yes,
Okay. Okay. I look forward to that report.
yes.
Yeah. I mean, I have great value for HIP, as you
Yeah.
know, but there needs to be a better financial model for
Yeah.
this because it's in danger of actually dipping into our operating funds. Ray?
Yep.
Thank you. You were on a roll there, and I didn't want to interrupt. Just a quick question on the customer experience. I'm looking at the numbers, but you're saying the offset savings in higher projected janitorial and contract services costs of White Oaks and Clearview. Have we changed the service level there, or why is that happening?
So some of the challenges with, because it's White Oaks and Clearview, so those are the school boards. They only provide janitorial during school hours. And so evenings, if we want additional, or the weekends in particular, and it's just increased cost. Also, I think we used to only do Saturdays, and we've added in Sundays. Yeah, yeah, because especially White Oaks can't go a full day.
Can't go a couple hours.
No,
No.
no, yeah.
We love our teenagers, but they're a little sloppy. Yeah. Okay, anything further on this report? Okay, the motion is received for information. Can I get that motion, please? Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Rod. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, we're moving on to item 7.3. That's OPL goals for 2026.
Yeah, so we're bringing our 2026 OPL goals to the board for approval. We did incorporate the feedback that we received back in October. And just to summarize, the board asked for clarification about what we meant by activation. So we did provide a definition that hopefully provided some clarity. There was also a request to add in a goal around collaboration. So we also added that in as well.
That was short and sweet.
Oh, yeah.
Questions from the board? Not a very talkative bunch tonight, are you?
Nothing wrong with that.
No, I know. I shouldn't complain. It could be council. It could be council. Rod?
Okay. Remind me, Tara, I know this was raised before, but the point on page 2 about we're going to try to engage 1,000 residents, including underrepresented and non-users. What are the plans to identify underrepresented and non-users, or what sort of bench, what sort of data will be used to try to come up with that as part of this?
Yeah, so that is partly when we go out to RFP for the consultant to assist with that. One of the key components that will be a driver for the evaluation is their community engagement plan. And so our requirement to meet that will be part of the community engagement plan that they'll have to distribute to us. So we will be looking for their assistance in helping to identify that, as well as identify different lenses to be able to get in to answer those questions.
All right, so the winning contractor on this will have to come up with a good plan when you're assessing.
Correct.
All right, okay.
Thanks, Rod. Anything further? Okay, this is a motion to approve. Can I get that motion, please? Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Avis. Any further comments or questions? All in favor? That's carried. 2025 Q3 OPL goals.
Yeah, so we wanted to provide all our Q3, which is again the end of September updates for our 2025 goals that are wrapping up. So I'm excited to indicate that we are seeing definitely our targets for a significant number of them. There are a couple that were delayed, one being the Trafalgar Urban Core South piece, the central. Some of those will carry over and we'll continue to update the board. They're not necessarily going away, but they're just been shifted due to different timelines. We are really excited around some of our goals related to, 16 Mile, which is well underway. We actually, I think I just saw that all the hiring has officially finished. So now not everybody's onboarded yet, but in terms of like the recruitment process, we've just finished that. So they all have rolling start dates now leading up to the opening of 16 Mile in the new year. So that's been a major project for the team, as well as we've seen the increases in households that we're really excited about in terms of cardholders up by those percentages. Yeah, and I'm happy to take questions related to it. The board may notice that as under staff growth and engagement, a lot of it is just a duplication of the report from last year, but it is the same information. So last month around the work that we've been doing with the staff engagement survey and all the action items as related to that. Bill was at our staff development day. We did a presentation in the afternoon where we really highlighted a lot of the things that we identified and we brought to the board as part of our town hall presentation in the afternoon, and that seemed to be well received. And so we're looking forward to the implementation of a number of those in 2026.
Okay, questions? Ray?
My favorite topic, the digitized, I can't say the word digital, of all the newspapers. What the report is saying, it's finishing up in December of this year, all the scanning and everything? Is that correct?
It'll be May.
Oh, it'll be May?
Yeah.
So I would assume there'll be a report followed on that after we get that information?
So when it's completed, we are bringing a report to you in January about making them public.
Oh,
So that is coming. David Huckworth will be present. We are bringing a recommendation for the board to consider about what our next step is once it's fully digitized, about making that public. As the board, remember, there are some legal influences we need to be aware of.
Right.
Yes.
if I remember correctly, we can't access that information to get into it. It's only directed by staff. Is that correct?
To
Still?
access the digitized copies
Yeah.
right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
there?
only somebody with admin access, even I can't get in there, can access it at the moment. We can output it, and I think we spit some out to show you, but it isn't something at this moment that we can provide board access to.
Good, I'm glad it's online. That's perfect. Thank you.
Further comments or questions? Okay, on that topic, so is there progress to report? I'm sorry, I know you said there's a report forthcoming, but I'm very impatient. Is there?
I wouldn't say there was progress.
Okay.
I think we're bringing options, and then the board will have to decide how they want to proceed.
Okay. And has there been any indication of the quantity of unscannable material?
There is a percentage for that. I don't know if we know it offhand, but I can certainly get back to you about that.
I know there was a budgeted amount I think that they had anticipated a certain percentage. I'm curious if we have any metrics on that.
Well, I do know that the number that we had estimated is more than what adds in reality, but some of that is just because of the way that we counted double pages, and they weren't all double pages.
Okay.
Yeah, so we think when we calculated, we'll have money left over because we budgeted for more than we actually needed once they actually started to scan. But in terms of like asking about, is there a page that just wouldn't scan? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
I don't know if
Or
we've
so
heard-
badly damaged that it basically had to be disposed of?
I don't know if we've hit any of those yet, but Monica can check and we can follow up.
Okay. It'd be nice to know how complete the actual scanning process is going to be at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think that's been identified to us yet, so we can always specifically ask.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to the legal report.
Yep.
On the 16 Mile Creek, are you going to be, Branch, are you going to be providing a more detailed report in your CEO report later today in terms of where we are and giving us an update on dates and such?
No.
Can you do that now? Like, where are we? Where are we right now? What's the anticipated opening date today?
I don't. End of February.
Okay. Is that realistic at this point?
We're aiming
Mr.
for it.
Mr. Commissioner?
We're going to try real hard.
Okay.
Yeah, so through you, Chair Nell, the plan is the building will be substantially completed in December.
Okay.
Where we'll then be in the state of commissioning the building, and that's where there's a little uncertainty as to when we'll be officially ready to open. We will definitely be ready for March. We're opening access to the building tentatively end of February. We're being vague because, again, I think until we actually get it handed over from the contractor, then we'll be able to give a really clear date line in terms of what's required to commission the building and when we'll be ready to open. But tentatively looking at access end of February for the public, but an opening more around March. But I think the library will be ahead of the game. Their space is ahead of the community center. And so we'll have to have some discussions on, do you open the library before you open the community center?
You anticipated my next question, because I was curious about that very topic. Because I'm sure that the community center probably it's more complicated as well, it's bigger space, so would we be able to get
The
open?
pool, and it takes longer to get that ready. So
Yeah.
those are conversations that we're going to have over the next.
That's exactly the vagueness. And I think we just had that conversation this week.
Yeah.
That the library will be ready ahead of the community center. So do we just go ahead and open the library? And I think we have to have more conversation on that. on what
I
makes
vote
sense.
yes.
Of course you would, Chair.
Are we looking at any risks right now? Is there anything that we're sort of keeping an eye on that we're concerned could have an impact on this?
The biggest risk is just we have, now that we're getting closer, construction is still ongoing, but we also have like our shelving vendors supposed to go in on Monday. We have pictures of the carpet being laid. It's supposed to be done by the end of the week, and so the facilities team is doing a job in trying to like manage those to understand that, okay, the carpet has to be down before this. We do have our book vendors coming in early December to get the books on the shelves and some of our equipment, and so all that is being managed. But as you can imagine, with a facility this big, there's a lot of moving pieces, and so we're really relying on the project management team to understand A, B, and C, right? This needs to happen before this needs to happen before this needs to happen, and working backwards, because we have very set dates with our vendors that would be challenging for us to change at this point.
Will you close the public or the portables prior to this, and how long will that area be without service?
Yeah, so we are looking, once we can solidify the date, but we are looking at closing the 16-mile portable probably mid-January. So there would be approximately 3 to 4 week gap.
Okay, and does everything get sucked over, or is there some portion that stays with the portables?
So we will clean out the portable. Not all of it will go to 16 Mile, simply because it's all new shelving, it's almost all new books, but those are all being reused throughout the system.
Okay.
So our first priority is to get 16 Mile open, and then the different books that have been dedicated to other branches or shelving that are using to replace older shelving at other locations, that will happen through March.
So good recycling and reuse of
Correct,
of everything in that
absolutely, yeah.
facility. Okay, terrific. I'll just come back. Okay, Ray?
Yeah, just a quick question. Are you looking at a soft opening if we're opening up earlier? Is there how are we going to handle that? You just going to open up the doors and say it's open, and we're not going to tell the public? And
Well, we'll definitely put out some kind of communication plan. We are running a little bit, as Paul indicated, we are running ahead in terms of the facility being ready. We're not necessarily, if we were to open the end of February, we wouldn't be opening at 100%. We'd still be opening closer to 85. because there are creation zones and pieces that we need to bring online that may take a little bit longer. But fundamentally, our space will be ready, our collections will be ready, our public access computers will be ready. People will be welcome to come in, interact with our spaces. So that we do want to go with that, but we are working on a communication plan about how that would go out and setting those expectations. But the community is really anxious to get in. We're really anxious to have them in. And so as soon as we can clarify, the separation of having the library go first and understanding exactly what the next, having us open, when is rec going to open, what does that look like, then we'll work with the town communication team on getting that out.
Is there an opportunity for the board to have a sneak preview of what's happening?
That is absolutely on our agenda. So we are having council in, and so I had flagged that when council come in, that an invite for the board to be included in that tour as well. I think we're aiming for January.
So through your channel, so we've targeted January for council, and I think that's just really the machination right now is, does council go first and then OPL? I think our deference is to have something coordinated between the two bodies.
Or save time and just have them both?
That's what
Yeah, that might make the most
We
sense.
get along.
Yeah.
I know some counselors.
I've seen it firsthand. So
Yeah,
I take
exactly.
your word
Yeah,
on
yeah.
that, Jeff.
That's very exciting, thank you. Last call for comments or questions? Okay, can I get a motion to receive? I think this is a receive. Yeah, it's a receive, please. Thank you, Bill. And thank you, Avis. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, moving on to 7.5, that's the Performance and Measures Q3 2025 Year-to-Date Report. You are watching for Andrew's hand, right? Okay, I feel very apprehensive because I don't want to speak out. Okay.
So yeah, the board has the Q3 Performance and Measure Board report in front of them. Overall, we're trending very well across the majority of our targets. Interestingly enough, and one that we're having conversations about, we are starting, I guess, I don't know whether to say finally see, a slight decrease in physical circulation. We've maintained a pretty stable one to date, but this is the first performance measures where we're starting to see a tiny bit of a decline. So that's something that we're going to monitor. We are continuing to see growth in digital, but to date it's been really steady in physical. So that's been an interesting thing to see, and we'll continue to monitor that. But other than that, we're definitely seeing growth in the majority of our areas. So happy to take any questions.
Questions? Avis.
Couple items on on the branch services chart. There were declines in things like tech help appointments, this PAC, public access. They don't seem like things we should worry about, but are there any of the decreases in that section worrisome?
No, what we're actually talking about is how to better track. So we are seeing a decrease in tech help appointments. We do know that people are just showing up and getting tech help. What we're seeing is them making an appointment. We're seeing a decrease. And so we do know that that's still happening at the desk, but right now we don't have a really great reporting measure to actually record that when it just happens organically at the desk. So if somebody goes up and asks a question about their phone or their iPad, that staff help them in that moment, whereas that metric is people making an appointment. So I think, and we've seen that trend actually from across a number of different services, is that drop-in seems to be the way that people want to go now. And we're seeing that in our programming, in a lot of different other ways, other than making appointments. I think people, for whatever reasons, are really struggling to make an appointment. They want to just drop in when it's convenient for them. And our service desk and our staff at our service desk are equipped to do that. So that is one thing that we discussed about that piece. I forget what the other one was. So it was tech help.
Well, the personal computers, I can see people would probably, that's just because people have access to their own computers or are more comfortable.
Yeah.
I think that, phone calls and email inquiries are also on the decline. To me, that is just maybe a trend that, but not to be a concern. I just didn't know from your perspective if it was.
It isn't necessarily a concern, but it is something that we did flag, and we are looking on our website about where we're placing that information to make it really easy for people to find. So if they do, because right now I think it's at the bottom, so we're looking at, okay, do we need to like shift it so that it's more visible, so that if people do have a question, I'm not surprised with the calling. I think calling will continue to go down. But the email, and email also spiked during COVID. So I think it might be right-sizing a little bit as well. And I also think, although this is purely qualitative and not quantitative, because I'm not sure how to measure it, but we've been making a number of changes with our website. And I think as we improve our website and people can find the information, they don't have to reach out in the same way. So again, as we do some of the public consultation next year for the service strategy as well as the strategic plan, we may look to see if there's a way for us to try to gather some of that feedback so that we get a better sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Further questions? Bill?
Iroquois Ridge, I get a little concerned about that because I know that we keep talking about how they're working on the building and so foot traffic is down. I'm kind of surprised though. First of all, do you know when that building is going to be back, like the pool open and all that? Do you have any idea?
Pool's open.
Just opened a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Through your chair, the building actually opened a couple of weeks ago, so
Oh,
the
okay.
pool's fully operational.
Right. So
And very busy.
yeah, no, but because I was thinking, okay, I mean, after a while, you would think that people still want to use the library, even if the pool isn't working. So anyway, that's so I guess we'll find out soon, if the
If the trend
traffic comes
continues,
back.
for sure, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, it's a big library in the system. We don't want to,
No, It
anyway.
also, I think, and you're right, it will be interesting. It also highlights, I think, or will highlight how often people try and I don't know if this is the right term, like double dip, right? So they know that their kids are going
Yeah,
to swimming lessons, and so they go to the library and they book it as one trip. So if the
Yeah.
pool is closed, have they booked their kids into swimming lessons at Glen Abbey, and then they're using the Glen Abbey library, just
okay.
as that interim, right? Like, that's hard for us to kind of measure a lot of
Right.
times.
Yeah.
But the fact that now that it's reopened, does the population come back because the pool's reopened and some, so these are trends
Yeah.
that we'll kind of take a look at.
okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Chair Noel, Andrew has a question.
Andrew, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Tara, I note that the data are all presented as Q3 year-to-date, and I'd request that in future versions of this report, we see the quarter on its own, not as a year-to-date metric, but feel free to call out any year-to-date, observations that are of note. I would appreciate it, if we saw Q1 as its own snapshot, Q2, Q3, et cetera. Is that fair?
It is, but I'd like that direction from the board,
Okay,
if that's okay.
so directed.
Okay.
No, I'm just.
No, I
yeah,
understand.
yeah.
I'm being flippant.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
No, that means moving forward, we won't include the year-to-date. We'll only include the quarter-to-quarter. Is that okay with everybody?
That's fine.
Okay.
Feel free to include year-to-date, where it's pertinent. It's just, obviously Q1 would have the most variance and Q4 would have the least, right? Just based on the massive data that's involved.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Andrew.
That's all for me. Thanks. I'm happy to move receipt of this, Jeff.
You're not, or you are?
I am.
Okay,
would
good. I
like
thought
to
you said
move
you're
receipt.
not for some reason. That's okay. It's a weird
Thank you.
declaration. Thank you, Andrew. So it's been moved. Do I get a seconder, please? Thanks, Rod. I have a question. So over the years, I've watched Glen Abbey, be our #1 branch.
Yep.
And clearly, that's not changing anytime soon. And if anything, they expand their reach. At what point do we actually reach capacity or become counterproductive in terms of being able to offer services to that branch?
So that's a question that we've been having internally, and I think we're really interested to see what happens with the opening of 16 Mile.
Right.
We are expecting some potential decrease in stress on Glen Abbey with it opening. Because the number, if we've been tracking new cards, and almost all the new cards coming into Glen Abbey would actually be more appropriate for 16 Mile. And so once that opens, we're really going to watch those trends and see if we actually do see a decrease at Glen Abbey because people have shifted up to 16 Mile because it works better for them in the Ward 7, or if that continues. And if it does continue, we're going to have to take a look at Glen Abbey because it is by far. I think it takes 40% of the majority of traffic across our entire system.
Yeah,
So
that's, it's quite impressive.
it is.
Yeah.
It is. But we are expecting 16 Mile opening to have an impact on that.
Was there a noticeable impact when we opened the portables at 16 Mile?
Not significantly, but that's 5,000 square feet.
True.
And doesn't have the services that this one will, as well as tied to the complex itself. So people who take swimming lessons at Glen Abbey, which the pool is over capacity at Glen Abbey as well, are going to shift up to 16 Mile. And there is more services going to be available up at that 16 Mile Sports Complex. So it will be interesting to see whether or not that has an impact on Glen Abbey, not just us, but the Glen Abbey Community Center as a whole.
Will you and the team devise strategies to actually maybe funnel some traffic in that direction?
Yeah, we can.
I mean, organically,
we can look at that,
some people will pick it up, but I mean, I would be shocked if with the lack of communications capacity we have in this community because of no newspapers or only the digital newspapers. I'm just wondering if we should be more proactive in terms of letting people know it's coming and then encouraging them to go up.
Yeah, we could definitely look at what we have done in the past related to like OPL Express locations or opening is we do dedicated mailers with like invitation, like come check out. And once we have more clarity around the opening of 16 Mile, we can look at doing that. Although it is something that we need to look at, I think 16 Mile is going to be busy. From the day it opens.
I think it will be busy as well, but I'm not convinced yet that it's going to spill off enough of Glen Abbey. And I am hearing complaints in the community that people can't find places to sit or whatever in Glen Abbey, and that's something we're going to have to.
No, I would say Glen Abbey is at its max capacity.
So that sort of accentuates the need to find even a temporary location in Palermo that we were speaking about earlier today.
Potentially, yep.
Yeah. Okay. It really justifies that whole thing about potentially moving that portable there if we could find a location. Or maybe we should just keep the portable moving if we don't have land to put it on. Just have it driving around. And
They used to have buses.
yeah, exactly. Bookmobiles. Yeah, I remember those, yeah. Okay, members of the board, is there any further questions on this particular report? Okay, can I get a motion to receive 7.5, please? Thanks, Avis. Bill, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, moving right along, the CEO update, 7.6.
Just bring that up. Okay. So 16 Mile construction, so the carpeting in the library area is to be completed, apparently I didn't finish that, is to be completed this week, and shelving is to be installed next week. I will follow up with the board over the next week. We should be able to clarify our opening date in the next couple weeks, so I'll be sure to keep the board notified as that, as well as our communication plan related to it. The new central project, no real updates to that. Continues to be that we're working with facility services on a council report reviewing 3 options, and they'll be going forward to council in February. The newspaper digitization project, you'll see that we are on track to complete December for phase 2, but phase 3 kicks off after that, and we'll finish closer to May, and then January we'll bring a recommendation around the public access approach that the board wants to take. So as everybody knows, we've been celebrating our 130 years, so we've been doing themed story times at all the different branches. We've brought in the Oakville Museum's provided artifacts that we've used as part of that. But I don't know if you've been in the branch, but we have these kind of displays, these 130 displays, and in it we have these cards, and we've been asking people to fill them out. And we have hundreds of them, and they are the most heartwarming things. I was reading some at Iroquois Ridge. I got a little emotional. And so we're going to figure out how we can use those and really do them. And these were 2 really cute ones that were in there. But I think Woodside had 100 to date. Iroquois Ridge said they had closer to 300. Glen Abbey's got a bunch of them. And they tell really lovely stories. And so we're excited to really get them all in one place and really dig into them about how we can understand our clientele and our customers a little bit better, but also use them as little. Yeah, we're really excited with it.
What is this? Sorry, go back one.
Yeah.
It says OPL. 2-hour tinker, what is that?
So that's our, we have Tinker Toys. So those are STEM toys that we have in the branches where they can borrow them and use them in the children's department. So we've got like the Caterpillar, the
yeah.
Caterpillar.
Yeah.
I think we had like a Rubik's Cube. We've got some other types of toys. And so they can borrow them. They have a 2-hour limit, and then they can bring them into the children's area and then just play with them. And then when they get tired, they can go back and get another one.
Very cool.
So again, and inviting families to come and stay.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be pick up a book and leave. It's like here is a variety of different activities that you can engage with together that don't necessarily have to involve staff. Book Talk Live, which was a fantastic event. We ended up with over 115 guests. We had 4 representatives from publishers that really did a focus on Canadian literature. And so we changed it up in that we had our reception after. In order to try to encourage people, here you just heard about all these great books, stay, have a snack, have a conversation. You meet other people, talk about which books you found really, really interesting. It is, again, we're trying to create spaces to allow the community to engage in things that are of interest and allow them to make that connection. And it was really well received. And then we have all the books that they provided us in our collection. So people were then invited to place holds and use OPL services. And then the Friends of the Library supported a library pop-up book sale, which was quite successful as well. So we are excited at how this turned out, and we're looking to do it again next year and hopefully build that presence in the community.
Has there ever been any thought to bringing those book talks to other parts of town, like North Oakville, for example?
In terms of I don't know if there's a space up there we could.
Well, the rec centers. I mean, Iroquois Ridge has a gym, and so does River Oaks. And
we do mini versions of this at the branch.
Okay.
Where it's the branch staff that do it. I think they do it after hours at some of the branches, like a Friday night. I forget what they call it. Do you remember what we call it? Evening in the Stacks. Okay. So basically, it's a program. It's run by staff, where staff come in and they highlight what's coming up, the big books that we have. This was fun to make as more of a fundraiser by bringing in the publishers themselves to do that. But we do mini versions at, I think, the majority of branches.
Okay.
Give Oakville, so we are participating again in the Oakville Community Foundation's Give Oakville program. It did launch off at Appleby College over the weekend. Jeff, I do think I saw pictures of you there. So we had our development coordinator was there, as well as Stephen, talking to people about all the different great activities that we do in the community and looking to engage with potential donors. And the Santa Claus Parade, we did participate in the 2025 Santa Claus Parade, one of my favorite events to participate in the year. Thank you to the board members, Avis and Rebecca, that participated with us as well, and Bill, who cheered us on from the crowd. It's so much fun. And this year, we actually invited the youth library leaders, and we just thought we'd put it out there, and like, we had to tell them to stop. We had to say start. We had to stop accepting applications in order to be able to manage it. So they had a great time once they got going. In particular, you'll see some of the staff. We got the big storybooks, like the Polar Bear that we do in story time, and they would walk along, and people would. That's our favorite book. We love that book. Anyway, it was. We got a couple hip hip hoorays for public libraries. Makes us happy, fills up our bucket. And so it's always a lovely thing for us to participate in.
Did somebody run out and bring them a donation letter when they said hip hip hooray?
No, we should. We gave out stickers. We need to put in like some kind of QR code. Yeah. And I won't miss an excuse to put that snowman costume on. And then just the final one is we've talked a little bit about our pilot that's supposed to be sensory. Room. This is a sneak peek, so it's getting in its final stages at our Woodside branch. And so through the rest of the year, we're inviting the partners that helped provide advice and collaborated with us on the space to come use the space for feedback, with the idea that it would be open for public booking starting in the new year. And so we're really excited to be able to offer this pilot and see how it goes, and whether or not it is something that we need to look at putting in some of our other spaces.
Is that in the basement or is that upstairs?
No, it's upstairs. It's right. It used to be the study room. We used to have two
Okay.
study carrels in there. And then we actually built a much bigger study room. And so this is it's just a small little room right next to the manager's office on the top floor. Yep. So, happy to take any last questions.
Any more questions? Not seeing any. Motion to receive the report. Avis and Ray, thank you. All in favor? That's carried. Wonderful. We do have a confidential discussion item, but I would actually like to make this a public item if nobody has an objection. I know that they originally, I think they put it in confidential because I was named specifically in there, but I'm a big boy with broad shoulders, so I don't mind. And I think it's useful for our public to be able to see how their board is performing. So do I require a motion to move it to the public, or is that my right as a member, as the chair? Okay, so I'm making this public, and I would ask that it be circulated, or that it be lodged with the minutes going forward. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question, and just for clarity, through the report, through you, Chair Tara, the involvement of the board on capital works, I'm not sure what the reasoning or how that would work, because to me, that's an operational thing that belongs with staff, and you have the expertise and you have the skill sets. But it seems that there was some information from the board that they would like to be involved in capital planning. I guess I'm going to run that through you, Mr. Chair. If within the act, we can do that as a board. I just leave that to be questioned. To find I just want clarity and definition on it, and if we can do that.
Well, I'd go one step back, and I would ask if whoever, maybe if you're prepared to uncloak yourself, because this is a confidential report, if somebody could explain maybe what they meant by that, if you don't mind telling us, and if not, then maybe you could let us know privately what your thoughts are on that, because I'm a little unsure about exactly what the intention was there.
Same with me.
Because Ray's right that typically capital planning, even at the town level, councillors don't necessarily even get involved to that extent with capital planning. So I'm just curious what maybe the nomenclature is not correct, or I just like to understand what that actually means. Okay, nobody here. Okay, well, so if anybody does want to have a conversation about that, feel free to reach out, because I'd like to know more about that so we can potentially try to help. Did you have any comments on this leading into it?
No, to me, this is the board's evaluation of itself. There is some feedback from staff in there as well, but the purpose of it is for a board to have a conversation. They highlighted a board involvement in capital planning, a board role in advocacy, but it is, in my thought, a conversation for the board members to have amongst yourselves about any changes you would like to make or questions that you would have about how you could improve as a board.
I will say, so there's a couple things that I thought really stood out, and I only just read this tonight, to be honest with you. I'm sorry, I, for whatever reason, didn't read it before, because it was blue paper. I didn't click the button on eScribe to go to the confidential. I assumed it was just minutes, so it was my fault. But I did have a chance to read it. One thing I was really pleased to see is in the staff comments that the staff seem to believe that we are staying in our lane. I'm interpreting what this means, but that's high praise, board members. When a staff team thinks we stay in our lane, that's really good, because that's one of the biggest points of conflict in board staff relationships, and I'm so happy to see that, because that wasn't always the case here. So thank you for that and sticking to our lanes, and thank you for your comments that I got, particularly on my scoring, my report card. I appreciate your feedback on that. That's nice to know that you think I'm doing a good job, and I appreciate the feedback. But having said that, if there ever is anything that I can do to make your jobs easier, or if there's something more you need, you never ever hesitate to let me know. Rod, I see you reaching for the mic. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, I actually, on the staff evaluation of the board, I did have one question. I think it's probably the fourth bullet on, let's see, the first page. It seems the way I'm reading that this person is saying is, they're saying we, board members, could contact town staff if we had a question about X or Y. Let's say it was health or safety or capital planning or whatever, maybe ahead of a meeting to get some clarification on something. And I always thought that, I have not been doing that, and basically because I always thought, well, the board should speak as one voice, and we also go through Tara. But the way this person has written this, it sounds as though they're saying, well, you guys, if you have, you want some clarification, why not contact us? And I just wondered, well, maybe the two, especially the representatives on the board from the town, what's your view on that?
Well, I guess my first blush is, and then I'll let Paul comment on that, but my first blush on that, maybe Paul can tell me if I'm right about this or not, but largely speaking, you are members of the library board, and your point of contact largely is the library staff. So not every comment, I mean, these are non-vetted comments, these are raw comments, so perhaps, you know, I don't know who wrote this, but perhaps it's somebody that maybe misunderstood the dynamic, because there sometimes in the public there certainly is, and maybe even among staff, there's a misunderstanding about that dotted line between us and the town itself. But I think it's a positive comment. I don't think it's negative in the sense that they're criticizing. They're just saying it's more efficient, I think, if we open dialogue more. But I do think we need to be careful reaching out to staff specifically. I think our point of contact is the CEO at all times.
I do think they also might be speaking to, previously, we used to have a lot more staff, town staff come. John used to come. Colleen used to be much more involved. Not that
Paul's always involved.
I know Paul's always involved.
Paul's
It isn't a criticism at all, but I just think we've whether we've matured or the way we write reports is better.
Fire you.
But we don't necessarily, and we could, right? We don't necessarily bring in, we used to bring in a lot more town staff for the reports, and we don't do that as much anymore. So I don't know whether or not, is that something that the board would like or not like, but I mean.
Well, let's go to Paul, then Ray, and then we can continue that conversation.
No, great conversation, and I can provide some clarity. I think the comment is intended to speak to what happens at the board meetings. Right. To Tara's point, there are sometimes questions that are seeking context on town policy or what is the town doing. And so I think the comment's intended to say, avail yourself of the representation that's here. We often have finance staff who can answer your questions. I'm here, happy to answer any town questions. And I think that is the context of the question, is not for board members to reach out outside of the context of these meetings. It's at the meetings, take advantage of those questions. If you anticipate a question also, if you could communicate with the CEO, Tara can make staff available to answer those questions at meetings. That's really what it is, I believe.
It's a very inquisitive board. I'm surprised this comment came up because I've never really seen any of you hide your light under a bushel in terms of being willing to ask questions, even the hard questions. So I appreciate, I mean, like every comment in here, I appreciate it coming back, but you've heard the man. His point's very valid, and we appreciate that. But I think your point of contact is if you have questions, you should focus your contact on the CEO. That's generally the board should be talking to their chief executive before being vetted off to a staff member at the discretion of the CEO. Ray first, then I'll come back to you.
Yeah. I totally agree with Paul with respect to the process. The challenge is sometimes is that when you have a large, like as council, we have a lot of questions, and sometimes you can take them offline. Yeah. It's a judgment call. Usually when I contact a staff person, it's a very quick question with a quick answer. That's just something for me. It's not necessarily for all of council. But what happens in that, it tailors itself for more questions and more questions. Before you know it, it's dragging staff down to do reports, verbal reports, or getting back, and it takes them away from their actual work. So 99% of the questions should be at council or on the board with respect to because the answers. But what I don't do, and it's just a personal opinion, I don't ask questions and try to put a staff person in a position that they haven't got the answer. Sometimes I will contact the staff and say, listen, I'm going to ask this question, so could you make sure you have the information? That is just due courtesy. So you deal with personalities with this and how you deal with it. It's a judgment call, but Jeff is absolutely right. We should be putting everything through you. Even the council should all go through the mayor. He's our spokesperson for our council. So that's my take on it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. Roger, up.
Yeah, no, I just want to say I took that bullet point from the staff actually very positively,
Yeah.
but you've clarified what I thought was the case, that we should
Yeah.
go through Tara, and I will continue to do that.
Yeah, I certainly didn't take it as a negative,
Yeah.
negative feedback. I actually appreciate the honesty of the staff being willing to speak truth to power, so to speak, and it's good to have that feedback. Further comments or questions? I'll go to Avis, then Bill.
Yeah, just a discussion around the advocacy piece. So
Oh, yeah.
when I was answering this question, I actually didn't make a comment, but I feel like I try and advocate as much as possible for the library. Even prior to joining the board, I talk about the library all the time. I participate in events, and I kind of saw that as my advocacy, that I'm doing it maybe informally, but like attending things as much as possible. But then when I read these points, I'm like, well, maybe there is a point there. Like, do we need, I don't know if it's a formal plan, but from your perspective, is there something more that we could be doing to help you? Like, how can we help you, or is there something missing?
From my perspective, not overly. It is lovely to have so much participation. So when we hold an event like our 1:30, people can come out. Also recognizing that sometimes our events are in the evening and sometimes during the day, and board members have challenges with that. But I don't think we've ever made sent out an invitation to the board where at least one of you didn't come, which is always great, especially when we're in the community. I think where we may see some growth for that is as we explore our capital campaign for New Central. And we start to have conversations, then I may be reaching out to the board a little bit more to be like, hey, I'm meeting with this person. It'd be really great if a board member could come with me in order to be able to just, again, preferential donors, they like to meet with board members and to be able to have that support. So that's something that we're having conversations about what that could potentially look like when we have, when we maybe we do a big launch, not a big launch, but like a donor event with the concepts and those types of pieces. And again, we'll invite the board and just when you guys come, it lends so much more legitimacy to the conversations that we have. So you may see a lot more requests come forward as we grow that capital campaign. We do have a fundraising consultant coming in the new year to be able to help us with that, who potentially guide us and maybe offer some support for the board members about how you can support us for that. So more information will be coming about that particular area. So I do see some growth in advocacy around that in particular. To date, and this is not, and different libraries have different board advocacy, but we have a really strong relationship with our municipality. And so we haven't needed the board advocacy as it relates to our council in terms of budgeting. We had a little bit of a bump last year, but I think we handled it really, really well. And so if that ever changes, then we may see a more of an engagement piece, but to date with our MOU and our SLAs and the board's involvement in those pieces and our council representatives and Paul being part of this and me sitting as part of the senior leadership team at the town connects us all really well, and I think just takes out some of that you may see at other libraries where the board needs to play more of a role with that. So really for me, the biggest area that you'll likely see us asking for more advocacy or involvement will likely be around the fundraising as we move forward.
Thank you.
Good point, though. And it may be worth at some point, especially since we're in our last year of this term, it may be worthwhile to actually have a bit of a brainstorming session on some of these topics like advocacy, just to sit down and have an informal conversation about that. Because the idea that we don't have an advocacy plan here, it's actually true. Perhaps that's something we could develop so that we could both execute ourselves, but also implement for future boards to have a bit of a roadmap as to how to manage that. Because there's that advocacy around, talking to council about advocating for our funding, but there's also that advocacy around, being out there and talking up the library at service clubs and at the water cooler and that sort of thing. I want to turn this around a little bit, that particular issue, because it's something I've raised before is that way back when I was a young board trustee back in the early 2000s, we used to be more visible as a board in terms of in the branches. There were photos of us around the circulation desk so people could say, oh yeah, that's my neighbor or whatever. So there was a clear connection between the board members and the library so that the community knew that there was a board and it wasn't just council, that there's neighbors, there's regular people not that counselors aren't regular people, but you know what I mean,
Yep.
that are part of the board. And the same thing in the external communications, like, you know, making sure that the board is highlighted in some of those emails that go out on social media. One of the organizations I'm involved with right now at a national level, they're doing this series over the next, I think, 8 weeks, where they're highlighting a different board member every month in social media, say, hey, this is the vice president of communications, and this is where the background is, et cetera. And it personalizes the governance body or the governance individual, so that the community has an opportunity to connect the dots, to understand that, you know, it's that there's people out there that are the civilian governors of the library. I think it'd be very useful. Okay. I've seen it be successful in the past. I've also seen it as a bit of a, sometimes as a disadvantage, because people say, I know that guy, I'm going to talk to him about that book. But most cases, I've found it to be positive. We used to do it way back when, in the early 2000s. Every year, they'd change the pictures when somebody was moved on or off, and there was always, so that always created that connection.
Because we don't do a board picture, that's something we could look at doing. I'll also say that we'll have a chat and look for ways to do that, but also, although we'll have a better sense of timing, but the board should also keep that in mind when we go to do our next strategic plan, because that could also be a part of that.
That's actually the perfect time to do that.
It resets it, and then how can we roll that piece in? I'm just trying to think about, there might be things that we can do in advance to that, but really the time to tackle it is the upcoming strategic plan.
Yeah, and like to board members, there's always an opportunity to talk up your library. I mean, every service club in town wants guest speakers at their respective service clubs. I know at Rotary, I'm a member of Oakville Trafalgar Rotary, they're always looking for somebody to speak, and often cases it's board members of the Rotary that end up speaking about something they've just researched, because we don't have a guest speaker. So, you know, if you have a Rotary club, or you have a son, daughter, father, mother that's involved, say, hey, listen, I'd love to come and talk to your club about the great stuff at the library, and get some, you know, some jot notes from Tara, or even bring Tara along. And just, you know, talk up the library, what we do, that we're always looking for, you know, for donors and partners and that sort of thing. So those are some great opportunities too, to take advocacy into your own hands. You're certainly welcome to, you know, talk up the library in those environments. So, you know, we'll talk about it in strategic planning a little bit more, and I think that's a great opportunity to do that. But I mean, you know, you can certainly do your own informal advocacy too. I think that's a great benefit of being, you know, citizens in the community and being out there and really talking up something we're all passionate about. Okay, Bill.
So going along that, I was at the staff development day the week or so ago, whatever it was, and I can't tell you how many people walked up to me and thanked me for coming, and I thought, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And I think it's because a lot of us are sort of invisible to a lot of these folks, and you know, just showing up to that thing was, you know, they were quite happy. I don't think everybody was, but anyway, there was a few, but it was kind of nice. I felt good about that. So I do agree that it would be good for us to get out there a little bit more. The other thing I wanted to mention was I was surprised that we only had 7 of 9 board members who did the survey, and I really think that we should strive to have everybody do one. I mean, because you wonder why they didn't, you know. And anyway, I don't know if it's something that we would expect everybody to, but I think we should expect everybody to do it.
Yeah, I don't
know how we do that.
It's part of board responsibilities, really, to be part of the self-evaluation process.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I mean, there's only 9 of us. Anyway.
No, next year, what I could do, because we do not ask board to identify themselves. But if the board interested when we go to do it next November, is ask whether or not you want to include that. That way I can nag who's left to fill it out.
Well, we set up through a program like MailChimp, for example, or not MailChimp, SurveyMonkey. I know it's some simian. You can actually set it up so that it tells you who's participated, but it won't identify it with the survey.
Oh, okay, because we used SurveyMonkey, but I didn't know it had that feature.
There's a feature like that in there. I've done that. I've done
Okay.
that in other
Because
areas.
you want the freedom for people to be able to say it, but also it's hard for us to know and even to reach out and be like, why? Because I asked a couple times.
Yeah. No, it's a really good point, and I've attended 2 in the past. I haven't been able to attend many of them because of my schedule, but I had the same experience. Every time I go, like I said, twice, once over at...
QEP? Was it QEP?
I was once at QEP and I was once at Sheridan College. Yeah, same thing. They were very happy to see us there, and I found the experiences to be excellent every time I went.
Oh, yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah. So, and having pictures up or some sort of representation of the board doesn't just serve the guests, it also speaks to the staff as well, so that they're aware of the fact that, you know, that we're here and supporting them, and they're big cheerleaders in their, you know, at these meetings late at night while they're at home getting ready for the next day.
Yeah.
Okay. Further comments or questions on the report? Seeing none, can I get a motion to, I think this is receive? Yep, receive for discussion. Motion, please, Bill, thank you. Seconded by Rod, thank you. All in favor? That's carried. And just a reminder again that I've declared that to be public, so that'll be part of our public record going forward. Okay, is there any new business to come before the board tonight? Any announcement? We're ending kind of early. I feel kind of bad that I'm giving you time back. I shouldn't be doing that. Seeing none, we'll move on. The board schedule is included for your information, and I will announce that our next board meeting is on Thursday, January 15th, 2026, right here in Oakville Town Hall. Have a wonderful December, and we hope that you have a great holiday, and look forward to seeing you bright tail. And we'll probably have a tour by then, I imagine, right? Is that the plan, early January? So we may get together before then? Paul's saying yes? Mid-January. Okay, terrific. Well, if we don't see you before then, happy holidays, and we'll see you in January. Thanks, everybody. And thanks to the staff for a great year. It's really been awesome. We really appreciate all your support.
Hear, hear.
This meeting is adjourned.